I loved so much of my Appalachian Trail through hike, spoiler, the whole thing, that I hate to play favorites. But guess what? I'm going to anyway. Because I just got my hair done today and I wanted to show it off, and it's cold and gloomy outside, so I was like, okay, I want to talk to my audience today. What should we talk about? And I've had this idea for this favorites video for a bit of time, and I haven't done it yet. So I just want to share like a bunch of my favorite things on the trail. So I'm going to do things in top threes. So I'm going to go through things like favorite sections, favorite states, favorite hostels, favorite breweries, all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, it's just sort of, if you're through hiking the AT, these are places you might want to swing by. Totally up to you, obviously. But, you know, on the whole AT, these were my like favorites, like the best of the best. So take it how you will, but let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the big stuff. My 3 favorite states. Okay, these are you ready? Are you ready? Maine, Tennessee, and Virginia. I go back and forth on which one I want to put into second place, Tennessee or Virginia, because they were both so amazing. And while I was on the AT, I used to say, or like when I first got off, I used to say my second favorite was for sure Tennessee. But it's like, when I think back on my AT experience, it's not that I think less of Tennessee, it's just that Virginia sticks out so much in my mind. It's just being this magical place, just full of wildflowers like rhododendrons and mountain laurels and mountain azaleas and flame azaleas. And it just sticks out as being so magical in my mind. And like the trail's a little bit easier there, and there are so many swimming opportunities that I do sometimes question myself. But then I think about Tennessee, and there's like the Rowan Highlands and the Smoky Mountains, and Tennessee just has such a special culture. And spring really came to Tennessee while I was there, with like butterflies and flowers and nice weather finally. So it's tough. But Maine is definitely number 1. No question in my mind, Maine is number 1. Maine was like what I wanted the entire AT to be. Not that I'm saying that the AT wasn't magical enough or enough of anything, because it was. Oh my God, you guys know I love it. But Maine was just so spectacularly beautiful. Parts of it were super challenging, but parts of it were not super challenging. There were amazing views. It just felt like this wilderness experience that I had been wanting the whole trail. Maine was just so special. The people there were so nice. Like anytime you went across a road, you had to do a road crossing. Like anyone going by would stop in their big pickup trucks and be like, hey, do you need anything? How's it going? Can I help you in any way? So, I love them all. Maine, Tennessee, Virginia, the greatest. I love them. I love them. Okay, moving on. By the way, if you have hiked the AT and you want to answer in these categories, let me know what your favorites are. Okay, from there, we'll move on to favorite sections of the trail. Are these sections in the states that I just mentioned? Yes, they are. But here we go. Favorite sections. The 100-mile wilderness in Maine, the Grayson Highlands in Virginia, and the Great Smoky Mountains in North Carolina and Tennessee. These, I mean, there were so many wonderful sections of trail, but people always ask me like, oh, if I can't do the entire AT, which sections should I do? And these are 3 of the sections that I would definitely recommend. The 100-mile wilderness in Maine, it's out there, it feels very wild, it feels very wildernessy. The first half, as you're going northbound, the first 50 miles are pretty challenging, but then the second 50 miles are actually very easy. There are so many swimming opportunities. It's just so gorgeous. There are so many waterfalls and creeks. It's so green. If you're lucky, you might see a moose. The 100-mile wilderness was hands down my favorite section of the entire AT, and I really hope to go back sometime. If I never get the chance to do the entire AT again, I definitely want to get back to the 100-mile wilderness and do it sometime in the peak fall foliage. all those reds and oranges and yellows, I just can't even imagine, because there were hints of fall as I was going through, but I would like to see it like full on sometime. But yeah, totally loved it. It was so awesome. And then the Grayson Highlands in Virginia, that is where the wild ponies roam. It's an incredibly pretty area. It's very unique. If you're going northbound in the normal time, if you start between mid-March and mid-April, you're gonna hit a lot of wildflowers in this area. It's very lush, it's very green. This section just feels very alive. And up in the Grayson Highlands themselves, it's just wonderful views. Wild ponies, maybe trying to steal your stuff, maybe trying to lick the salt off you, maybe very mischievous, but very cute. Very magical. Really love this section. And then the Great Smoky Mountains, they feel so majestic and alive, and the forest there feels so dense, and you get lovely views, and the trail really isn't that hard in this section compared to what you have been through coming north so far. It's pretty magical. I just totally love those sections of trail. I would also say beyond those three, I know I'm supposed to only be giving three, but I also love the Rowan Highlands in Tennessee. And I also loved Virginia's Triple Crown, which is the Dragon's Tooth, McAfee Knob, and Tinker Cliffs. All very cool. But I mean, again, so many sections of trail are super magical, and everyone's gonna have their favorites, but I would say those are my three favorite. Okay, next up. Hostels, places to stay. Okay, this is an easy one, at least for the number one. I would put number one as Woods Hole Hostel near Parisburg, Virginia. This place is awesome. It's a working farm out in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's super gorgeous, so gorgeous. It's so green. There are farm animals, there are gardens. They have this really lovely like bunk room where they have like the most comfortable beds, great showers, loaner clothes. The owner, Neville, is amazing. She's the coolest. And you can also pay for, as soon as you arrive, they see if you want to buy a smoothie or a milkshake, and you can have that delivered to where you're staying. It's awesome. And you can also pay for meals there. The food's amazing because, you know, it's on a farm, like lots of fresh stuff. And if you do pay for the meals, they ask you to help out. It's family style. It's just a really nice experience. You feel very welcome there. You feel very comfortable there. They have these, you know, like porch chairs and rocking chairs that you can sit on and just look out onto the farm, into the Blue Ridge, and it's just the coolest. It's such a great place. I highly recommend that you stop there if you're through hiking the AT, or even if you're just doing a section through Virginia. Really just amazing. My number two, I would put Shaw's. Shaw's is just southbound of the 100-mile wilderness, and it's run by two former AT thru hikers, Poet and Hippie Chick. And they have a little family that lives there. They have kids. And this is, again, it's a really lovely little town. And it's within walking distance to everything you would need in the town. If you want to go out to eat, if you want to resupply, whatever. And they have bunk rooms. You can camp on the lawn. I actually just camped on the lawn while I was there. You can do your laundry. They have loaner clothes again. And they're just really cool people. You know, they're really cool people. I felt like Poet was very encouraging and gave great advice. They just have really great vibes. They're very welcoming there. They obviously really love the trail. And while you're there, you can pay for a Maine blueberry pancake breakfast right before you go into the 100-mile, which is pretty awesome. You can also pay them to resupply you in the 100-mile. You can get a food drop while you're out there. I didn't. I just carried my food all the way through. I don't know why people get so crazy about not wanting to carry all their food. Like, I know it's extra weight, but it's really not that big of a deal. But if you don't want to carry all of your food for the whole 100-mile wilderness, then you can pay them to drop you off some food, like halfway through your weekend there or whatever. So yeah, I just had a really nice experience there. Highly recommend Shaw's. And finally, I would say Mountain Harbor Hostel in Roan Mountain, Tennessee. This place, I heard while I was there, has the best breakfast on the entire AT. Was that true? if it wasn't the best, it was close. You pay for breakfast, it's all you can eat. Again, they have bunk rooms. They're also a B&B, so if you wanted to get your own room in the B&B, you could do that. There's like a really lovely creek running through the property. You can hang out at the creek. They'll do shuttles to the grocery store. It's just very comfortable and very quaint and pretty, and the food's amazing, and I just had a very nice time there. So yeah, those are my top 3 hostels. Next up, breweries. Okay, if you're like me and my trail family, then you might like to have a craft beer every now and again on the trail. Okay, weirdly, I really craved beer out on the trail. Beer and soda, like especially middle of summer, it was so hot. Walking through New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York, it was like, oh my God, so freaking hot. And all I ever wanted was a cold drink. And constantly, it's like, I get to town and it's like, give me either a beer or a Coca-Cola immediately or I'll die. Okay, that's obviously very dramatic, but that's how I felt. So we ended up visiting a lot of microbreweries because there are a lot of microbreweries along the AT. So it's hard to choose favorites, but again, I'm gonna do it. So number 1, this one's easy actually. Devil's Backbone near Charlottesville, Virginia. Devil's Backbone is the freaking coolest, and they're so good to hikers. They have this huge property out in the Blue Ridge Mountains, just huge. They literally have a campground out there. It's a wedding venue. They have a stage because they have big concerts there and festivals there in the summer. They have like a bazillion beers on tap, and they have amazing food. So if you're a hiker, you come down there, they'll actually come pick you up at the trailhead because it's several miles away. So you can call them and they'll come pick you up at the trailhead. You might have to wait a little bit, but eventually they'll get to you. And they'll actually let you camp for free on their grounds, which is super cool. And they will give you, at least when I was hiking through, I don't know if the price is still the same now, but they would give you a breakfast for $5 and they had vegetarian options. So that's also pretty cool. But oh my gosh, you can just hang out at their property all day. They've got like outdoor games, like ladder ball and cornhole, and drink beers and eat to your heart's content all day long. And you got a free place to camp out. You got a $5 breakfast, and they'll drive you back to the trail as well. So that's awesome. And when I was going through there, I actually missed 11 miles of trail right by Devil's Backbone. So when I finished the AT, I had to go back and finish these 11 miles because, you can finish a through hike within a year, but I just went back. I waited a couple weeks after I finished, and then I went down. My friend Baby was hiking Sobo, that section through, so I joined him. And I reached out to Devil's Backbone. I saw they had a festival going on, like a music festival. And I reached out to them and said, hey, I came through on my AT through hike. I got to come back down and do these 11 miles. Would you by any chance give me a discounted ticket to this festival? Just, I had talked to a guy while I had been there the first time around, and he said, oh, reach out to us when you come back down. We might be able to help you out. So they responded to me and they were like, here's a free festival ticket and a free campsite for that weekend. And I was just like, what? They're so good to hikers. They're so supportive. Love them so much. And their beer's great. So anyway, stop there if you don't stop at any other microbreweries. And aside from that one, I really liked Ballast Point, which was near Daleville, Virginia. I'm sad to report that I tried to look this up to see exactly where it was. It was in Daleville or Troutville. And it looks like they don't have their brewery there anymore. However, it does look like there are several other breweries in this area, so I wonder if another company took that one over. But Ballast Point they're based in California, and it looks like they only now have brew houses in California, so I'm thinking that they just probably sold it to another brewery. So look in that area though, because it seems like there are still several breweries that you can visit. Do not fret. And the third was, I really enjoyed the Damascus Brewery. This one is not open very many days of the week. As I recall, it's only open like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So look that up before you go. But their beer was really good. I recall having a really nice sour while I was there. They're very friendly. You kind of walk in and you feel like, oh, I'm a part of the town. Like, I belong here. But they have an outdoor space where they have live music sometimes. We actually went 2 nights, my family and I, and there was live music both nights, which was really cool. And you can order pizza to the brewery, which is also great. Who doesn't love that? So yeah, those were all great. Definitely recommend them, aside from Bell's Point, because not there anymore. Okay, next up, favorite campsites. All three of my favorite campsites on the entire AT are in Maine. Because Maine is just the coolest. And they're actually all in the 100-mile wilderness. So obviously you see that I'm serious when I say I love the 100-mile wilderness. Okay, these campsites are Rainbow Lake Dam, which is a little bit off the AT, Lake Nabakanta, and Antlers campsite. All amazing, all on water, swimming opportunities right where you're camping, beautiful opportunities for sunsets if it's sunny while you're there. It was very sunny when I was in Maine. I got very lucky. Oh, still dreaming about these campsites. But yeah, just super gorgeous. From Rainbow Lake Dam, you can actually see Katahdin. You'll notice as you keep going northbound through Maine, Katahdin looms. It's like stalking you. It's like, you go over a ridge and you're like, oh, there's Katahdin. You come up on a lake, you're like, oh, there's Katahdin. It sneaks up on you, it's stalking you. And personally, I was not ready to be done with the AT, so I was like, get out of here, go away. But it didn't, it kept showing up, getting closer and closer and closer. But anyway, nice view of it from Rainbow Lake Dam. Also, there were beavers in there when I was there, which, super cool, really lovely. Love seeing the wildlife. Lake Nabakanta, you can't sleep directly on the shore, but there are campsites around and places I'm pretty sure there were bathrooms there and garbage cans you could drop your trash, which also is appreciated. And there was a random canoe just sitting on the shore when I was there, so might have taken it out for a little spin. It was fun. It's super pretty there. Lovely camping. 10 out of 10. Would recommend, would return. And then Antlers campsite, which I had heard about before going into the 100-mile, heard it was really cool. And Ibex and I somehow ended up having the entire campsite to ourselves while we were there. It's just on the shore of Joe Mary Lake. And it's just lovely. Did we swim in all three of these? Absolutely we did. Was it wonderful? It sure was. It was the greatest. So if you love swimming and lakes and nice campsites, you will for sure love all three of these and the 100-mile wilderness. And last category, favorite side adventures. This was tough. We did have some really good ones out there, my family and I, but alas, I have to choose favorites again. The first one, also in the 100-mile wilderness. Okay, there is a 5.2-mile loop trail that meets the AT called the Gulf Hagass Trail. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not 100% certain that I am, but I'll put some info in the show notes. And this 5.2-mile trail, Ibex and I did this, but we didn't do the entire one. I think we went a mile or so in and then turned around. But there are a bazillion beautiful waterfalls in there. Just waterfalls everywhere. Just freaking beautiful waterfalls. There's this deep canyon that runs down, and there's just all these different waterfalls that you can go to along this trail. It's super pretty, highly recommend. I know you're getting to the end of the trail if you're going northbound, and you're I don't wanna do any more off-trail miles, I don't wanna do any extra whatever. If you do any extra miles for the entire AT, do this little side trail. You don't have to do the whole thing. You can just go in, less than a mile and see several of these waterfalls and beautiful views. Do it, do it, do it, do it. I'm telling you, it's gorgeous. People go out there just for this trail. It's awesome. So that was side adventure number one. And yes, it was hiking. These other ones aren't hiking, but it was just so beautiful that I couldn't leave it out. Okay, 2, river tubing in Harper's Ferry. You can do this in Front Royal, Virginia, and you can do it in Harper's Ferry. You will have to get a ride somehow to the river, but that shouldn't be, too difficult to figure out. Trail towns a lot of times have shuttles, or you can hitch or whatever. We actually got a ride we stayed with these people who are amazing, Thumbelina and Wahoo, who used to own a hostel in Harper's Ferry. They're not doing the hostel thing anymore, but Wahoo actually at the time was working for this rafting company who also did tubing. There's several companies in the area that you could go through in Harper's Ferry, but we went through the one that he worked for because he gave us a ride there. And anyway, you just rent tubes and you can take a cooler and take beers or take drinks and go out on the river and just float down the river to your heart's content. Have a good time, get a tan, go for a swim, and then get back on trail. It's great, highly recommend. I lived in Washington, D.C. for several years before I did the AT, and so my friends and I used to go up to Harper's Ferry every summer and do this, and we always had a blast. So that's how I knew about it. So when we got to Harper's Ferry, I was like, yo, guys, we definitely got to do the river tubing thing. And we did, and it was awesome. So there's an idea for you. And third, I would say outside of Rangeley, Maine. So Rangeley, Maine is like, there's a ton of water there, like lakes and rivers and streams and just like tons of water there. And we actually took a little side excursion. We went canoeing. Nope, that's not true. We went kayaking down this river in Rangeley. It was so pretty. It was really fun. Ibex's friend just came up from New York to visit for a couple of days. We got an Airbnb. She drove us to this place where you could just go rent kayaks and go out on the river for a couple hours. And it was awesome, gorgeous. I love the water, kind of a mermaid, love water sports. So those are really fun side excursions. But certainly these are not the only side excursions you could do on the AT. I have a whole video about things you can do besides hiking out there. So check that out if you're interested in learning more. And okay, I was going to do favorite restaurants on the trail because I feel like people always want to know about the places to eat. But literally this is like the one thing that I can't remember. Like I can't think of, like, where did I ate at a lot of restaurants. I'd go to a restaurant like pretty much every time I went to a town, or at least probably like once a week I'd go to a restaurant. You get real hungry in the woods. You might think to yourself, I'm not gonna spend much money on restaurant food. And that's what I thought too. But once your hiker hunger jacks up and you're sick of hiker food, like, oh, all heck breaks loose. But anyway, so I was gonna talk about my favorite restaurants, but I literally can't really remember the restaurants. So I'm not the right person to ask for that, apparently. And I think I enjoyed Trail Magic way more than the restaurants because people would just get so crazy into Trail Magic and bring out the most delicious things that you have ever had in your life. So ask me about Trail Magic, I could tell you all about that, but the restaurants, it's gone from my brain. But anyway, if you want to know any of my favorite other categories on the AT, let me know in the comments. If you have hiked the AT, even just done some sections and you have some favorites, let me know in the comments as well. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I'll talk to you all next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check me out on Instagram at AudiePayne. Okay, I'll see y'all later.